Truck is shifting gears to truck now, is going very well. And it was the last week or the week before we demoed the website, which the securities attorneys have now gone over. There's an extension being made for the investor portal. There's several people that are waiting for the private placement, the Reg D 506B to be circulated, which is completed. The attorneys have signed off, and they're just trying to get that portal up so people can do their KYC and their accredited investorship stuff. And then that project will start taking institutional dollars in. Some of that has already started, but there's like a grace period between when you can do that and then how quickly you have to have all the rest of the stuff done. And the window's very tight. So it's been extremely busy trying to get that completed, but that's virtually across the goal line now. So it's very good. There's a lot more trucks that are going to be contributed to that ecosystem. So there's a lot more to come on that. And I will revisit that soon. Next week, there'll be more on that. So let me go back. So let's pick it up from where we left off. Digital Oil had an extremely busy week. Lots of good stuff on Good Friday. As I said, the UAE trade partner safe on the shores of Canada. So that conversation should be able to pick back up this coming week, right after the Easter Monday. As that war, kind of rolls on, hopefully the things, start to smooth out there. And again, there's, as you can see, the price of oil is over 100 and has been over $100 for quite some time. This has been fairly positive for us here domestically. Only because the joint venture back in the Midwest is moving quickly to get capital deployed so that more production can be brought online. So that's not a project I look after. As you guys know, Roy looks after that for us. So I know he's been very busy with that, amongst other things. And then Menson's had a very busy week. They had representatives out in the Chamorro district with the EPA. The EPA went to site on 2 of the drilling locations. They picked a primary location and they picked a secondary backup location. So those have been decided. So and I don't know. The EPA toured them. There'll be some more. There'll be like more of a report next week with some photographs and stuff to show you guys and share with you about that trip, that site visit. So, but they've been out there, sorted it all out, made sure that the local community is aware that this is going to be taking place. The EPA had to weigh in and had to approve the sites, as I mentioned to you the other week. In case there's spillage or a problem or a blowout, or there's many different technical things because you're dealing with hydrocarbons and lots of natural gas. There could be explosions and all sorts of fun, dangerous stuff when you're building a Rockefeller level wealth building enterprise. So, but that's all moving forward and is pretty exciting because that means that they now have drilling locations and we're that much closer to the first well being drilled, and we're that much which is awesome. First well being drilled. The big news was the oil pairing took place. The big news was you're all very much aware of that. The big news was there's obviously pent up demand. The token spiked over 400. Obviously pent up demand. The token spiked over 400. The pairing was set as promised at 0. clearing was set at 0.0025. It's currently trading as of this morning at 0.05760. So it's at 5 3/4 cents already. So that's great news for everybody. Here we go. We kick off the next chapter in this saga. And it's great. I want to remind everyone, that look, you don't want to live your life, every morning at the price of the token, right? This is a marathon, not a sprint. There's still a lot of work to do. There's still, 95% of the value and things to do with digital oil. I mean, the project's 3 months, going on 4 months old now, and we've got 10 years. So there's plenty of time, and there's going to be, just going to make everybody aware, there's going to be lots of ups and downs. So don't panic. Just remember, and obviously, information's key, right? So stay informed. Make sure that you're, with your tribe and your pod, whatever you want to call it, and you're communicating. About what's going on, because there's reasons for everything. And again, like we've talked about many times, Monarch and MWC is setting the new standard, right? The new best practices for Web3 projects as far as like transparency and reporting and goal setting and communication. So we're really driving the cutting edge of this in the business and in our industry. So it's going to give you a couple some coin market statistics that are kind of fun. There's since this whole thing called crypto kicked off, there's probably been close to 50 million plus tokens launched, about 47 million to be a little bit more exact, created to date. Thousands of Web3 projects have reached or exceeded a price of 5 cents at some point in their history. To that end, very few, very few, like a small fraction, have done that in the first week of launch. That's unique to us. So very few have done that in their first week, or they're even in their launched TGE or token generation event. The most meaningful price action takes longer due to vesting periods and the liquidity building that we're going to be doing, and we're doing the marketing and the general market cycle. So there's much more to come. We've just literally started this token's about a week old. So but it's good. But now that the token's been launched, we're right on to being able to now demonstrate to our production partners kind of more directly exactly what it is that we're doing and why it's valuable. So this is great. I had a fantastic call this week with Phoenix Energy. You can look them up. They're by far the 800-pound gorilla in the United States as far as capital markets are concerned with regards to raising money for oil and gas drilling. It just so happens that Matt Willer is head of their investment leadership for the entire organization, and he heads Phoenix's capital markets. He happens to be a Beta Sigma teak from USC, and hey, that's my fraternity again. So we're buds. I'm in very very hot conversations with him about the future of oil and gas and how things are done. Just to give you a little bit of background on Phoenix. Phoenix is also an oil and gas producer. They operate about 119 wells. They're focused mainly in North Dakota, Montana, Texas, hopefully soon to be Oklahoma and Kansas. In 2025 alone, their operating subsidiary drilled and completed and placed dozens to hundreds of wells into production, with rapid growth in operating activity since 2023. So between 2023 and 2025, they've done dozens of their own wells, and they've been involved with hundreds. They've raised well over $2 billion historically via debt and bond offerings, and they represent 67 large accredited institutional investors. I'll give you one example. Is a Fortress Investment Group out of New York with a $48 billion assets under management AUM. So that's just one of their 67. So my conversations this week were a multiple with Matt, and it was, look, we're raising some institutional funds for our active stuff. And yeah, that's them, Jay. And we're looking at that, and we're also looking to the hundreds of other operators that you guys have funded over the years, because they also have interest in thousands of wells via having royalty agreements with over 7,700 different wells from all over the place with different operators. So the whole purpose of that is to go to those operators and say, look, you're leaving money on the table. There's a better way. I circulated this week a number of different audio files. I hope that those in the MP3 format, I hope those will helpful to you guys for your recruiting and education. I'll continue to do that. I'm gonna try to do all the white papers as well in an audio format that kind of podcast back and forth between the two hosts, Sam and Tom, I think his name is. Anyway, I like that banter back and forth and how they do it. So and I'm getting better and better at the AI interface with how that's written, so that we get the information outlined that we need to, and get the point across, and try to make it easier for you guys, because some of these concepts are fairly complicated and technical. So we're trying to Fisher price that or dumb it down so that people can listen to a 3-minute audio file or 15-minute audio file, or hopefully no longer ever than a 30-minute audio file. But I like those audio files, and then I'll get with Thomas when he's feeling better and we have more time for some housekeeping to see if we can get like an audio file section on the MWC platform, so you guys have these at your fingertips should you need them or want them. So what's coming next is structure. Digital Oil is building royalty agreements with partners in the oil industry, as I just mentioned. This means, real world activity, right? Oil production, barrels being sold, real revenues being generated. The key metrics and the key mechanisms for this is that those real oil production sales, are exclusively for oil token buys in the secondary. And while there's not a whole huge amount of demand for that yet, there will be. So we'll be actively and aggressively chasing that, and then putting those reserves in place so that when the time comes, strategic buys can be made and burns can continue to trend upward. So the more tokens we remove, obviously, the better for everyone. So we've already seen what 1 week of buying pressure can do, and drive the token up from 1/4 of a hundredth of a penny to over 6 cents, and settling back down to about 5.5. So now imagine what happens when that pressure is fueled by real industrial revenues at scale. It's going to be quite exciting, and it's going to happen. And so you got just a taste this week of what is coming. So it's getting really interesting. The smart match technology and the smart swap powered by smart swap is live as of yesterday. Orders are being loaded into the system for buyers and sellers from both sides. This is good as it documents the trade value and creates the aspects the public reporting charts want, but protects against the wild pricing volatility both up and down. The volatility is generally misleading and creates an environment for manipulation and misinformation, as we know. And we're 180 degrees the other way, right? We're an open book. We want to be very transparent about what we're doing and how we're doing it, because we want everyone to understand that, this, when it grows organically, it's tangible, it's real. It's not inflated. It's not a market maker buying and selling for their own account and, doing that to push volume, because it really, at the end of the day, if you're a very sophisticated trader, that is not what, I mean, in the short term, it moves people's emotions, right? But because it's just very cursory on the surface. It just, it's just the token price. It's like a meme coin. If it's going up, people feel good. If it's going down, people feel bad. It doesn't mean it's not healthy. What you want, and what the goal always is, and what we understand very well now through a lot of trial and error and experience, is that you want a healthy, liquidity pools. You want a healthy ecosystem, and that means up and downs are okay, but you want those in a tighter range than these high and lows. So, for buyers, the smart match, technology allows, the purchases, either small or large, to be optimized pricing, which is great because they get more tokens for their spend. And, the price impacts are minuscule to what's happening on the publicly reported DEX or the automated market makers like Uniswap, where we're on. So, for sellers, instead of hurting their own selling price, they're being able to get the liquidity that they need or want, and they're allowing the buyer, which is, would be assumed to be another community member, the best execution for the highest returns on the USDT. So again, I encourage you strongly to use Smart Match. If you need to, and don't, obviously, not everything in life can be planned, but if you see the fact that you need to get some liquidity or you want to exit out of some of the tokens, use the Smart Match technology, because it's better for the entire ecosystem and everyone involved, versus just going to Uniswap and instantly trading it. Although that is there and obviously needs to be there. Obviously, a lot of new organic growth is going to be obtained through that, and potentially some centralized exchanges should we decide to list, which is undetermined at this point, but very much could be a consideration in the future. So I think it's important that we spend a minute and understand how these pools function, and the representations that are being fed into the systems. While other projects manipulate their pricing action, this is not sustainable. That eventually falls down and creates a faux market or a fake market for a while, but then it crashes down or or corrects itself, because free markets do that. In the future of the platform, we're engaging technical experts to come in and inject more liquidity and depth into the liquidity pool so that it's not so shallow. So this is I mentioned it earlier. We're building liquidity depth. It takes time. We have to make the depth of the pool larger as we grow in size. So it's very important that we continue to invite people in and get more people involved and grow the ecosystem, because the faster that happens, the deeper the liquidity pool will deepen, and the stronger and healthier our ecosystem will be. So size equals value, and size equals health. So I wish it was that way with cheeseburgers, but it's not. Anyway, I digress. So the careful orchestration of the USDT to oil tokens are added at the current ratios of where they are. So if you're seeing now, there's only like 400 and something thousand tokens, which is still quite a bit for this initial pairing. There'll be more added along the way, but it'll be added in at the ratio that it needs to be. So essentially what's happening is our experts are using rebasing and pricing stabilization to inject that depth, right? Which is completely, compliant. Rebasing is done all the time. Manipulation is not. And that is what a lot of people do. But long term, it's not healthy for the value of the token or the ecosystem. So these superpowers on both sides of the fence, knowing how to manipulate is a superpower, and knowing how to, rebase and inject depth into a liquidity pool is a superpower, as far as I'm concerned. And they can both be used for good or evil, more often than not. And the know-how and the knowledge is used to suck organic growth out of Web3 projects, as we've all experienced before. So the true value of the organic growth is replaced, or, fake or manufactured value, right? Which is our enemy. We choose to use our superpowers for good and build a steady foundation and build long-term value for all of our stakeholders. This is our community. This is our project. And, we're all, to a certain extent, somewhat responsible for it. So we need to look after it carefully and not let people abuse it. So again, these are key factors when we in the culture that we're trying to create. Remember, this is a long journey, right? This is not a sprint for any of the tokens to go up. Again, like I said, don't live your life checking and measuring the entire project by price alone. It will go up and down. Panic selling never is productive long term. Diamond hand status is key for redistributions. Don't forget that. Remember, the diamond status keeps you eligible for redistributions, including that 10% slashing mechanism when it kicks in. And again, I know we're just getting started. We're only 3 to 4 months in, but I'll give you an example. I'll remind you of some of the triggering mechanisms. When the project hits a $2.5 billion capitalization number, that's a triggering event. We're currently at 58 million, so we've got a ways to go, but that grows pretty fast. There are other mechanisms that also trigger in those 10 that are in the white paper. 25,000 UNFT stake to the platform is a trigger milestone. 25,000 receiving wallets is a trigger milestone. 250 million in oil utility token value, totally locked value, is also another trigger mechanism. So, and these and as the token goes up, that totally locked value and the staking, which we'll get into in a little bit, starts to play a role. So don't forget about these things, because again, remember 10% of that slashing is redistributed to the diamond wallets. And that status is key, because you could be talking about splitting a pro rata share of 80 million plus tokens with a smaller group of diamond status wallets, and that could be significant, right? That could be life changing. So it's like almost kind of winning the lottery with much better odds than any of the lotteries that we have here in the U.S. So as I stated earlier, the smart match technology is live and active. Smart staking, the oil for oil, will be launched this coming week. Thomas has informed me that he's getting close. I don't want to commit him to a day, but so it's probably a week away or so. But that's exciting as well, because that's another way to earn quite a bit of token, and again builds totally locked value, which is another trigger mechanism. So remember, this is a true ecosystem. One thing kind of all affects the other stuff. So thank God it's all automated through a very complex system of smart contracts that Thomas is smart enough to orchestrate, because certainly we are not able to keep track of all of it, but he's got it down to a science. So we are blessed to have him as a partner. So again, I encourage you guys to learn the smart match technology and also learn the smart staking, because you need to be able to explain this to the new organic people coming in, and you're going to want to know how it functions and operates. And a lot of this is brand new even to us. So these technologies are being designed and built for our platform, our projects. So this is as new to us as it is to you. So let's become familiar with how they work, so we can promote them properly, and we can explain to people why Monarch and MWC are different than most, because we're not like others. We're completely different. I was on the phone again this morning with our e-commerce people integrating, and they're 15 years in the fintech business already, which is forever, considering this industry, and they've seen everything. And giving the executive vice president of development and integration a breakdown of what we're doing, she's like, "This is incredible!" Like, what it's like she's like, is all this possible? Yeah, we're doing it now. And so she was very impressed, and they're very excited. I mean, it's I'm sure you guys experience it as well. We experience it all the time, because people just don't understand the level that we're running at, because we're running at a very high level. Trust me, there's nothing like us out there. And again, I've said this even from 1.0, go out there and try to look. There's more copycats out there than there were before. We know most of them. Most of them came from within, but they still don't get it and don't do it right. So again,
I'd like to ask you a question. My name is John McCracken. I was invited through Schad Brannon, and I have about 35 years in international licensing, software development, so on and so forth. And I would really love to get my hands on the white paper that you mentioned, so that I can bring myself up to speed. Secondarily, I want to compliment you on your communication skills, really strong. If there's a way for me to assist here, I have some very large relationships that are tied to Venezuela. And I think tokenization would be like a leapfrog effect for that environment, and catching them up with the technology that's out there.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
Hey, John, I'm sorry. So thank you for attending. I appreciate you jumping on. I'll catch up with you offline. I use this
Sure.
time. I only have an hour with all the folks, and some of them are over in Europe, so it's late for them. So I don't tie it up with a bunch of commentary, but totally, it's why I invited you, because I wanted you to be able to hear all this. So again, I got about 15 minutes left, so I need to speed up a little bit. So what else is coming is the self-reinforcing cycle. The more partners that join, the more royalty agreements are signed, the more real world revenues are generated, the more tokens are bought and burned, the more buying pressure appears, the more visibility attracts even more partners and participants. So the cycle continues stronger each time. So each time we continue to do it, it just builds on itself, starts to fold over onto itself. Right now there are people actively producing oil tokens. So the reality here is that, the more people that discover that they can produce tokens, the better for the ecosystem. Because again, it has a material effect on the overall structure. The more participants that enter the system, of course, sharing this information is important. And it's part of how the ecosystem works. Continuous growth is important. The larger the ecosystem gets, the more valuable the system is in every way. Bottom line is bigger equals more value. As the participants join, the total weight of the pool increases, which automatically reduces the daily production per UNFT. So the more people that join in, the harvesting rates come down, because it affects each one that's weighted. That's good. We want that, over time, because as the tokens become more valuable, we want less of them in circulation. So obviously this isn't controlled by anyone. It's completely managed by the protocol itself through the weighted, base distribution system, or the harvesting rates. But our job as a community is to invite more people and share the blessings with everybody that we can, because the more people that come in, the healthier and more value we create. There's other key aspects as well. Some of the current staking minimums feel really high today. That's only because they're set that way because the token price started so low. But even as it starts to rise, you'll get there pretty quick. It may take a few weeks or a few months, but it'll happen, and then you'll see, because once that starts to roll over and you start staking those tokens, and you're earning oil for oil, it starts to compound, and you really start to build quite some wealth, some digital wealth. So it's great. I need to bring up this Project Unity that's happening in the background. Some of you are well aware of it, others are not, but I think it's important that so that you understand what it is and why it's happening. To answer these questions of what it is and why it's happening, I need to give you some context. So before Monarch and MWC, there was a very large community, and some know the history, others don't, but it's important that everyone understands what it is. Black Gold was the predecessor project of digital oil. Tens of thousands of people from around the world participated in that. On August 2nd, 2023, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission illegally obtained a TRO, or temporary restraining order, against Digital Licensing Inc., me and Roy, and many other defendants, our company in Wyoming. This also bled across the pond into Ghana, and our brothers there were affected as well. And it affected everything, as I'm sure you can imagine. They installed a receiver, Holland and Knight LLP, which is a big law firm here in the United States, to immediately take over and run our organization. This went extremely poorly, to say the least. They were ill-equipped and lacked serious technical know-how to step into our shoes, and therefore practically did nothing. The SEC and the receiver actions caused catastrophic failures in the organization, resulting in irreparable damage. The damage was so bad we could never recover, despite many, many months of trying. Newer folks, namely our French community and some folks in Europe, started asking questions recently and trying to understand a few months ago what this was all about and what was expected. And I wanted to personally thank those inquiries for allowing me to tell our story and explain what happened, because there's two sides to every story always. And so I appreciated the professionalism of that. I will tell you this now. In the coming weeks, you're going to hear more about this. Understand that what went on here was unprecedented. Under Gary Gensler's SCC, after allowing the largest fraud in American history, $8+ billion to be stolen in the FTX fiasco, President Biden called Gensler into the White House and read him the riot act. Paraphrasing here, but I can only assume it went something like, "How could you let this happen on my watch?" Remember the largest before this was Bernie Madoff under President Obama. So President Biden told Gensler, "Kill crypto in the United States. I want it gone. You need to fix this." So 64 companies were sued and caught up in that dragnet campaign. To my knowledge, only 3 prevailed, and 61 of them took fines, penalties. Some knew they were caught and left quietly because there were bad actors in there. There were also a lot of really good actors in there. Some were completely innocent, but realized that they can't win against the Goliath of the Securities and Exchange Commission and the federal U.S. government, and paid, not admitting any denying any fault, but paid fines just to be free of it, because they didn't want to go through years of protracted litigation. A few dozen to 2, approximately, a third fought. We were one of them. In the end, 3 prevailed. Ripple Labs, which is XRP, Coinbase, it's still fighting to this day. And the Debt Box, our legacy platform. In our case, the circumstances were, we caught the lead investigators, Michael Welsh and Casey Frock, lawyers for the SEC. Frock began, Casey Frock, he was the ranking head of the regional Salt Lake City office, which is now closed. Were caught by us lying to a federal judge and manufacturing evidence against us and our service providers. Roy and I licensed the DebtBox platform, so AKA the collection of smart contracts, right? Much like we've done with Thomas, but we've partnered with Thomas, and Thomas is a brilliant, great guy. Not so much our past service providers. In these proceeds, we proved, Roy, I, and our company DLI, Digital Licensing Incorporated, were innocent, and that what Welsh and Frock and their Salt Lake City office was presenting was not accurate and was misleading to the court. I can tell you, because the system is stacked against you in these situations, and when you catch an agency of the federal government lying, that is not only unprecedented but very dangerous. Edward Snowden rings a bell. The NSA was spying on the American people, and he was the whistleblower who illegally released classified documents, undeniable. So regardless of your politics, this is the facts. This is what happened. Look at what that got him. He's a hero to the people, but an enemy to the state, and the United States at that. Very dangerous situation is all I can say. You don't want to be on the bad side of the U.S. State Department or any of the federal agencies. It just won't ever end well, unless you're somebody. And we certainly were not somebody. Roy and I were the whistleblowers on the commission. And like Edward, we were told by our lawyers, don't go there. They don't lie. You're inviting attention you don't want. Well, the answer to that was F this. No one is above the law, and if they're going to use the system against us, we're going to use the system to expose them, because Roy and I did nothing wrong. And when you have truth and righteousness on your side, you have nothing to fear. So that's what we did. Look at what, it got them. The SEC, a huge black eye and a broken nose. You don't punch the US federal government in the face and break their nose without expecting a counterpunch. So I need to tell you, April is going to unveil some new actions. No one knows yet, but Roy and I, and our African partners too, who were fully cleared in the investigation, because we're building a legitimate ecosystem here. Nothing that they said that we weren't. These are the only people that know what's coming, and now you guys know. So please keep this to yourself, but April's going to be an interesting month. I need to get in front of this and tell you, because they don't want you to be blindsided by the fact that you hear our names mentioned again, and the debt box, considering just a few months ago, I was asked about this, and I kind of thought everybody understood or knew, and it came to the surprise of some of the French community. So, and again, they were professional enough to say, can you please explain this to us? And I shared a bunch of documents and the dismissal of the case and everything, the letter from JD Vance, and a lot of other things, showing that it wasn't anything but what we were saying it was. And again, that can be very stressful, especially when we're building something as big as what we're doing. So first, I tell you guys this because first, the legacy debt box is not going to affect Monarch or the new projects in any way. BGLD, Black Gold, which is the predecessor of digital oil, is not digital oil. They are fundamentally and legally different. We've confirmed this with the regulators. Roy and I and the African partners have totally checked everything out, and we are not a target of their punchback or retribution. Trust me when I tell you it's coming. Roy and I were very much involved and understood we were on one side of the duplex house. There was a left door and there was a right door, two very different doors. We were on the right, by the way. The left door was our service provider's blocks run by the Andersons. IX Global was our institutional sales organization, and several other named defendants were involved. Second, Roy and I are fine. We have taken the appropriate amount of responsibility for what went down and how it went down. It's not so much what, but more important, how. And who knew what and when was a very key point. Because you don't sell $207 million worth of NFTs in 18 months and distribute $95 million in liquidity to your community, catch the SEC in illegal activity, and get them sanctioned for the first time in their 92-year history, not pay taxes on any of it, even project funds, and get a free pass. It's not going to happen. And we've been very vocal about the fact that we know we bear some responsibility, Roy and I and DLI. Imagine why Welsh and Frock in the Salt Lake City regional office decided to manufacture evidence against the four leaders of the debt council, or the four people, me, Roy, and the two Anderson brothers. Think about that. They clearly knew something more than what anybody in the public knew. So again, There'll be more on this next week. I'll keep you informed, but I want you to hear it from me first and us so that you're not blindsided and you understand exactly what's going on. And again, when I tell you we're fine, I can't be more, steadfast about that. We've spent millions of dollars with legal and lawyers to make sure that there's nothing that we're going to do to influence what we're doing now, or that there's any blowback on Monarch or MWC. So again, our loyal community the loyal community that came before everyone, some of them are here now with us on this call. I will encourage you to reach out to them and check out my story. They've been riding shotgun with us this entire time. It's not just me. There's plenty of third-party testimony out there that you can, seek out and ask any of the people, and you know who they are, because if they're not in your community, then they're probably the 1.0 folks, and who have, as we call them, the supporters who have been with us all the way from the beginning of 1.0, not now 2.0. So again, we are different than the other defendants. I'm going to tell you this. This doesn't mean we bear no responsibility for what happened. And again, how it happened is very important, right? That's what I want to underline. People lost their life savings in this, millions and millions of dollars, including Roy and myself and our African brothers. Most of the legacy folks still here today were multimillionaires on paper. Hell, Roy and I were billionaires for a time on paper. This is not hype. This is not, hyperbole. This is reality. This happened. This is true. It's all documented on the blockchain. I don't tell you that because I'm bragging. I tell you that because we did it once already and we're going to do it again. And you all are going to come along for the ride. So we're all back on that path to get to that place. By the grace of God, for sure. So recently, very recently, it became clear that our present company included, our loyal followers from 1.0, they're going to get nothing out of this. The SEC is going to do the same thing they always do, which is they're going to fine a bunch of people millions and millions of dollars, and they're not taking the names of the victims that are out there that lost their life savings and did the right thing and got screwed, and are going to distribute that money. They're going to put it in their treasury and they're going to move on. They have a black eye and a bloody nose to wipe away, and they're going to try to save as much face as possible. So all is going to be revealed pretty soon. And everyone will have to answer for their role in what they did. And Roy and I are at peace with that. We have answered for, our role, because it was nothing but righteousness. And we were building legitimate projects, and we were doing it very well. And it was going extremely well. And we were very successful. And we're going to get back there again. We're going to do it again. So with everybody here, we're going to change the world. So please, I have to make this statement. If I hear one more time, I'm waiting to see if this is real, or let's see how this goes. Please, there's the door, leave. I'm just speaking for myself and no one else, but forgive me, but I've lost years of my life, millions of dollars that I can never get back. I have risked my freedom. I have gone into war zones for this rebuilding. And if you're not committed to this by now, just leave. Don't waste my time, because I certainly won't waste yours. So the time has come, right? Project Unity is exclusively for the Legacy Debt Box members because it's now crystal clear. No one is going to help our community. SEC will levy millions upon millions in fines, but the money will never make it back to the hands from which it came. I mentioned earlier that just in the year 2024, it was finally calculated that FTX stole approximately $8 billion of platform money. The commission fined $8.2 billion in 2024 alone. Tell me who is keeping score here, right? There's no coincidences. 8 billion was stolen and they fined 61 companies, 8.2 billion. So Gensler and Biden were keeping score. Despite the millions of lives behind that 8 billion, and in our case, 428,450,000 $1 million, almost, just shy of a half a billion, or 70 million shy of a half a billion, was evaporated in 72 hours of the SEC trampling all over mine and Roy's Fourth and Fifth Amendment constitutional rights. Not to mention all the lives that were destroyed or upended over this fiasco. Let's never do that again, please. We were not like the others. We are different, and we proved this through actions, not words or hype. The first BGLD NFT sold for $2,000 in 2021. That climbed all the way by increasing by $1,000 per 100 sold to the last known sale of a black gold license or NFT for $48,000. That means that the average between the lowest sale and the highest sale was $26,000. If you legitimately bought and held that black gold NFT before August 2nd, 2023, the day before SEC came in and derailed everything, then you're now eligible in Project Unity for a Unity NFT. This is a series of NFTs that will yield or pay out $26,000 in their lifetime. Good for 10 years. This special edition Unity royalty has been set aside to fund this rug rollout campaign. The Africans, namely Mensons, because they all agree and our people, they all agree, and they agree that the people who sowed the seeds for these Ghana projects should receive a portion of the harvest. This portion of the revenues are from their private share and will not dilute the digital oil royalties, just to make sure everybody's clear. Depending upon how many legacy folks legitimately sign up, that utility pool of rewards will be shared pro rata for all stakeholders. This will not affect the digital reward oil token price. This is completely on a separate pool, separate thing. It's not going to affect Uniswap or any of the stuff we talked about just prior. Oils, OIL $, was originally contemplated as the digital oil stablecoin, but as things adjust and change, that is now adjusted to the tangible stablecoin, which is Monarch's platform stablecoin, linked to all the platform projects. So digest this, and we'll talk about and address more of this information next week about the TANS stablecoin. Oils being compatible with TANS and USDT is a special royalty differentiator, and it will help benefit the entire community. The more value pushed through TANs, the more credible and more broadly accepted that stablecoin will become. So everyone derives value from the Project Unity. Unity bring the old and the new together. You see how the naming is all making sense now? Also, never before in history has the industry ever seen a rug rollout. There have been countless rug pulls where was the SEC when all these happened, I might ask. Well, if it earns them fines and headlines, they're there. But otherwise, oh well, people are stupid and they shouldn't fall for these scams anymore. That's the way I think they feel. For the first time in history, a rug rollout is taking place whereby the project owners and are restoring value to the community instead of taking it away. Think about all the marketing and public relation implications surrounding this are going to be, right? So how many rug pulls have there been reported and converted and covered in the press? And now for the first opportunity to report on the reverse, right? Surely this is noteworthy and will tell the world that not all Web3 projects and principles are scammers. Some very few are actually righteous men that care about the lives and all of God's children and their brothers and sisters. This effort is the right thing to do and is who your administrators are. This is just money. And let me assure you, there is plenty to go around. Take it from a former multimillionaire on the phone here, or even a billionaire on paper, right? At the time, it can be made again, and we will make it again. We'll do it together. That's not hype. That's fact, right? You all are now on your way to that place. I encourage you to engage and start to bring the blessings to everybody that we can. We will be right beside you as we are not going anywhere. So let's recap. Okay. Trade finance partners now safely in Canada. The EPA was out at the sites in Ghana preparing a preliminary and secondary sites for drilling approval. The drill rig is already there on the ground, ready for the sites to be greenlit. Once that first oil well is drilled, all hell is going to break loose in a great way. It's going to change the energy landscape in West Africa. The oil utility token launched with an immediate 400% spike. Phoenix Energy has thousands of wells and hundreds of operators at their disposal. And I happen to be friends with the guy who built all the capital markets for it. Smart Match is now live. There's new marketing tools being released on the DApp from Thomas. And I'm feeding you guys a steady supply of audio files. Hopefully that helps with recruitment and education. Smart Stake will go live this coming week, and I ran over 10 minutes, but I think that was quite a bit to get out. I hope it was informative. I'm obviously always here. You guys have any burning questions, you can DM me. John will speak later, but appreciate you all on this Easter weekend. I hope you all have a blessed weekend and get some rest with your families. And appreciate you all. Thanks again. And here we go. Lots of milestones met. More exciting information to come next week. Do you have anything, Thomas?
Hey, Schad.
Yeah, go ahead, Leon.
Stop.
Yeah. Can I just make a quick statement? I want to again offer what you had offered. There's myself and some of the other 1.0 supporters on there that had put a lot of money in DebtBox, and we're here. So I just want to extend the opportunity that you offered for anyone out there to reach out to myself or any of the other people if you have burning questions about that. And so I just want to let people know.
Thank you, Leon. That's much appreciated. Yeah. I just want people to hear it. I want them to be able to hear it from others other than me. 95% of the time I do all the talking. And again, sometimes I get bored and hate the sound of my own voice. As you know, and as you've known for the last almost, August will be 3 years in this saga, plus the years before that we had at DebtBox, almost 5 now. I speak the truth. I don't hype things. I don't make shit up. I give it to you like it is, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And again, that's the only thing by God's grace that brought us through this thing, and the support of some of the 1.0 people and the continued support of and the trust of the 2.0 that we're here. This was extremely complicated to navigate, as a lot of the 1.0 people know. I mean, we had to make sure that we were on the right side of this thing. We had to make sure that they weren't coming after the legacy projects. We had to make sure that we kept the legacy projects alive. We had to convince the people in Africa to not abandon the goodwill that had been met and invested. I used that prior example in Telegram about the orchard and the seed sowers. It's true. And they recognize it, and they're righteous people too. And they and it's just money. It's like when you're talking about you know, hundreds of millions of barrels of oil, we're talking about billions of dollars in value. So setting aside a small additional royalty for the people that, you know, broke their back to get this thing off the ground, they shouldn't be left behind. And again, it's taken a lot of humble pie for me and Roy to lay down our swords and stop fighting with everybody, you know, over this whole thing. And again, it's like, I use the Edward Snowden example because I said that, you know, look at what it got them, right? It made him a hero to the people, but an enemy of the state. And, you know, it's not that extreme for us, but it certainly was traumatic, and it was for all of us. And I'm not just here. All of us, our testimony is what is going to bring this to the world, right? You can't make this stuff up. And again, trust me, when everybody that covered this before, when it made national press, it will again, because they're going to make a bunch of noise about it. We're going to leverage that for our new platform, because they're not going to give back any of that $450 million that they evaporated in 72 hours. That's gone. We can never get it back, but we can rebuild it. And I'm going to make sure we're going to give it our damnedest to make sure that we leverage every, second of press we're going to leverage every amount of value to tell the people, who we are, what we're made of, and that, our integrity is not in question here. By championing the first rug rollout in history to, combat the multiple hundreds of rug pulls that have been done in this industry, again, is another unprecedented thing. And how can that be undenied? And if you want to be a part of a Web3 community, and as Terrell put out earlier this week, I challenge anyone, all the way to Coinbase, to any of these others, to come and go a few rounds with us, because what we've endured and what we've come through is nothing short of a miracle.
I just also want to mention the level of transparency that the 2.0 people need to understand, that that this is bar none, and the level of transparency that we have right now is unprecedented for what, as much as was done before. We never, when you and Roy were out there building all the relationships, and the Andersons were doing the stuff that they were doing, we never had this level of transparency. So I just want to thoroughly appreciate everyone to appreciate that, and thank you for.
And no problem, Leon. All good. And so again, with that said, I offered up the testimony of the legacy folks, because you guys in the new and improved version need to understand what Project Unity is all about. Understand you're not missing out on anything, and no one's excluding you from anything, but these people all lost their shirts, including myself. I got a new jacket now, so I'm okay. I'm warm enough. But the reality is that somebody needs to do something about this, and it's clear the regulators and the authorities aren't going to do it, and everybody else is running away and not taking any responsibility. I can tell you right now, out of that list of defendants, Roy and I are the only ones that stepped up and said, we're going to take some responsibility. But here's how much we're going to take, and this is how we're going to take it. And that's key. There'll be more on that next week and in the coming weeks, but that's why we're going to be fine. I don't know what's going to happen to anybody else, but I don't care. The only people I care about are on this phone. So much love, respect. Have a great Easter weekend. We rise again. We rise again. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Schad. Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Thomas. Feel better, brother.
I will. Thank you. Happy Easter.
Thank you.